Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Welcome to the Little Improvements DIY Home Improvement YouTube channel, a channel that's dedicated to doing little projects, little improvements around the house that add up to make a big difference. Today what we're going to be doing is talking about a faux fake shaker cabinet. This is not a professional grade shaker cabinet. If what you want is a professional grade shaker cabinet, there's plenty of videos online to show you how to do that. I want to show you though how I turned my 1960s hallway closet door into something a little more modern and up to date. So thanks for joining. If you like the content, please subscribe and hit the notification button and come back for more.
All right, we're gonna start with 1/2-inch birch plywood. It's got a really good finish on it, easy to paint. This particular material comes with some filler in it already, which is nice. This particular product here is 2¼ inch by 1/2 inch MDF trim. And we're gonna need to pay attention to the fact that there is a beveled edge on one end of this trim. We'll need to pay attention to that later. Gonna go ahead and get some hardware. And this is optional, but this is a guide for the hardware to go on the door. Safety glasses are usually helpful. Tape measure is a must in this case. This right here is plastic wood. We'll talk about that later. And this build, we're going to use some Gorilla Glue, the original, a putty knife, some clamps, some type of saw. In this case, a circular saw, a table saw would work. Something to sand with. In my case here, I'm going to be using a multi-tool. You're going to need a drill, and I'm going to be using a nail gun. You can use some brad nails and a hammer as well. Some primer, paint, spray paint works, and your finished paint product. Speed square is going to be optional, but you are going to need a pencil. First thing I'm doing is laying out my door here, and in this case I'm going to be doing something easy. 20 inches by 14 inches. Just measuring it out using my speed square to identify the areas I need to cut. Using a level, I'm able to get a straight line, which is going to help me when I cut. Just measuring out to make sure both sides are level. I did notice that one side was a little bit wider than the other, so went ahead and marked it and sanded it down to get the right distance. Marking out my next cut using a guide, pretty simple. Now I'm just cleaning up all the edges with my multi-tool and a sanding attachment. I really like this product. I like the color on the back end of this, but for this particular build, we really want a uniform surface for the painting, so we're going to use that on the top. All right, we're starting to line out and make our cuts for our trim. We've got two 20-inch vertical pieces that are going to be going up and down the left and right side of the cabinet. And accounting for the width of those trims, we got a 9.5-inch cut for the center pieces of the cabinet door. And as you can see here, the cabinet door is starting to come together, and you can see what I'm talking about. We've got our two 20 inches on each end. And accounting for the width of those, we cut our center pieces at 9.5. I chose to put the beveled end of the trims on the outside of the cabinet door, and you can see here on the raw cut, we're going to have to match that beveled end later with a sander. Pardon the quick iron bump there. I was thinking I was going to need those weights to clamp this down, and I actually ended up needing them. So yeah, so what we're doing here is applying that Gorilla Glue. I would advise reading the instructions. I missed a really important step. You got to add water before you put it, kind of dampen the surface, and I failed to do that. It turned out really good though still, so you know, I don't know, worked out in my case. You can see here I'm gluing my trim on, and I'm just using some clamps here to hold it down, and I am applying some brad nails via a nail gun And these are 5/8 inch brad nails, so they're just barely poking through that trim and getting down into that material below. But just making sure we're applying some brad nails and some clamps to get this thing secure to allow that Gorilla Glue to set and give us a good solid cabinet. At this point, do yourself a favor, wipe off as much of that excess Gorilla Glue as possible. It's going to help out in the future. And there we have it, starting to look more like that shaker cabinet door that we've been talking about. As you can see here, I'm just kind of peeling off some of that dried Gorilla Glue paint in the rear, like I was saying, wipe it off early. This right here is plastic wood. It's an awesome product. I know I've probably got some woodworkers out there having an aneurysm watching this, but for the DIYer, I think this is really appropriate. It's really fun to use. And what we're doing here is, well, removing some old glue and filling in all these gaps and imperfections on the edge of our cabinet door. We're gonna go let this dry, and we're gonna come back and sand it at a later point. It's gonna give us that really good surface to paint. I'm doing it here on the top as well for my nail holes and my gaps where the trim come together, and it actually turned out really well, so I would recommend it. And here we are the next day. The smoke in Northern California is atrocious. You can tell it's just orange outside and nasty, but what we're doing here is taking down some of that excess plastic wood material and just making it nice and smooth and even. The multi-tool is doing a phenomenal job, and kind of fun too. And trimming the top down here of those nail holes and joints. I took some finer sandpaper here to use, especially on the edges of this soft MDF material. If you took a tool to it, it would probably wear it down a lot lower than you want it to be. Just using this guide here made by, I believe it's Patriot Hardware. It's like 10 bucks. I think it's worth it. Just making sure we have the right holes. And we're gonna go ahead and locate them on the cabinet door, using our drill to drill out those pilot holes for our hardware. One thing to note, when I put these holes in, I noticed that the screw from the hardware wasn't going to be long enough to fit through and catch on the hardware, so I actually had to drill out some countersink holes on top, and that allowed for the ability for the screws to fit through and catch that hardware like we wanted to. You can see right here. All right, you're gonna have to excuse my belly here in this shot. My wife's been making some excellent chocolate chip cookies as of late. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna put some primer, a few coats of primer down, and your finished paint. Be cognizant of the fact that you're gonna have different surfaces here, so the paint's gonna all set a little differently. So I would recommend putting down several coats of primer before you're putting down your finished paint product. It's gonna give you a really good surface to put that finished paint product on.
Well, there you have it, guys. This right here is our final product of our DIY fake shaker style cabinet door. We've got our hardware installed. It's looking really good. The one thing I would have done differently is put a light sand on the back board of this cabinet door to receive the paint a little bit better than mine did. What we're gonna need to do next, or what you're gonna need to do next, is make sure and get some cabinet door hardware. Go ahead and get it installed. Overall, it looks really good. Would I be putting this in my kitchen? Probably not, but in a garage, in a linen closet, in a pantry, it's gonna look great. So thanks guys for joining. I really appreciate it. Come back for more DIY and home improvement projects. Thanks all. Talk soon.